All right, welcome back for episode 4 of Black in Time.
Episode 4, I'm going to review Jet Magazine from April 17th, 1952. Now, back then they wrote an article that seems as interesting today as it did back then, perhaps even more given that this issue has gotten much better and even inspired a television show due to the technology that's developed to counter this problem. Michael Jackson wrote a damn song about it. All right, the article begins. The day Eve plucked and ate forbidden fruit, she unknowingly cleared the way for an uncounted millions of females to hang fatherhood raps on veritable multitude of Adam's descendants. For ever since, women have been shaking accusing fingers at cringing unmarried males and weeping, "Yes, Judge, that man is the father of my child." According to an unnamed British writer, maternity is a matter of fact. Paternity is a matter of opinion. Of course, in 2022, that ish is actually fact. DNA, son. It mentions that in 1951, 30,000 single Negro men had to go to court to purge themselves of paternity charges. The article goes on to say that what is most disturbing is that about 30% of the fathers who are convicted of fathering a child are actually innocent. The reason why this happens are the following. 1, the women do not know who the father actually is. 2, they're just uncertain as to who the father is. And 3, they want to trap another man who they think will be a good father. A New York prosecutor by the name of Sidney B. Shatkin, who's overseen at least 5,000 paternity cases over a 24-year period, has concluded that at least 750 men were convicted unjustly. 1/3 of the accusations in New York courts are legal shakedowns based on false charges, he is quoted as saying. An American pathologist by the name of Dr. H.A. Heiss points out that one half of the defendants in fornication and bastardly charges, I guess that's what they were called, are falsely accused. Since charges are infinitely hard to disprove, they result in convictions. The article mentions that blood tests were being used at the time, but that they had limited efficacy. They can detect 55 out of 100 false accusations. So, based on the time period involved, I'm going to assume that they used blood typing because this is the 50s, so they only had so much to go off of. Now, if this is using the blood type of the mother, the father, and the child. Now, this works only in a couple of situations. If the mother, father, and the child have the same blood type, it's not going to work at all. As you know, we inherit a blood type from either our mother or our father. So if both the mother and the father have the same blood type and the baby has that blood type, it's not going to work. However, if the mother and the father have the same blood type and the baby has a different one, the father or the accused father is off the hook because it came from somewhere else, not the mother or the accused father. Also, if the mother and father have different blood types and the baby has a blood type that doesn't belong to either the mother or the father, he's also off the hook. However, if somebody who just happens to have the same blood type as the father fathered that baby, which there's about a 30% chance that that could happen, unless, of course, the father is one of the people who contains one of the more rare blood types. I'm going to show you an image of the approximate distribution of these blood types in the population. So unless the father is fortunate enough to have a rare blood type or something like that, there's a high probability that just some random dude off the street is going to have the same blood type as him. And if he is responsible for that baby and he shares a blood type with this accused individual, then, well, there's no way to prove that he's not the father. Another set of data which showed that 656 tests run over a 10-year period showed that 65 of the accused men, 65 out of 656, that's about 10%, were not actually the fathers. This is in 1951. So you can see that this problem has been with us for a very, very long time. The article goes on to state that once accused, their life from that point is a series of harassments, embarrassments, and paying through the nose. In every state, convicted fathers pay support from $10 a month in Delaware to $500 a year in Oregon. That's about $100 a year difference. Goes on to say that tragically, there are no statistics for calculating the hundreds of broken homes resulting from the accusations of designing females. Neither are there any devices for measuring the mental anguish or damage to reputations of men falsely accused. The rate of wrong convictions is still alarmingly high, enough to call for a revision of paternity laws. So, the next article I thought was also very fitting for today's world was titled, Do Career Women Make Good Wives? And it starts with the following. Ever since women stepped out of the traditional nursery and kitchen roles to become breadwinners, marital experts have debated that question pro and con. The many stories of broken marriages among Negro celebrities have given strong support to those who claim that only one mate per family can wear the pants. They bring up Pearl Bailey. She's a prolific Broadway singer, actress, and writer who just divorced her fourth husband. And Dinah Washington, an extremely successful pianist and jazz singer who married her fifth husband at the age of 27. They then went down the list of ladies who are doing a fantastic job balancing both career and marriage, I guess, to show their support for the idea that women can be career women and wives. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I have the advantage of living 70 years in the future. So I can tell you of these examples, these shining examples of married women who worked out or not. So with no further ado, there was first Hazel Scott. She's a beautiful jazz singer, pianist who became a movie star. She starred along with Lena Horne in several films, and she married Congressman Clayton Powell in 1945. They had a kid, and Jet commented on her ability to do it all: marriage, family, romance. However, they divorced in 1960, about 10 years after this article, and Powell married his secretary. All right, so the black movie star Lena Horne was, of course, featured here. She married Lenny Hayton. He is a pudgy white dude musician, at least the photo I saw. I don't think he was that pudgy when she married him. But this was her second marriage. They separated in the early 1960s, but never divorced. There's also Thomasina Johnson Norford. This woman was a giant of a civil rights activist and a consultant to the Labor Department. She married television executive and playwright George Norford. They remained married until her death in 2002, according to all the records that I could find. Mary Fitzpatrick Cole. She's married to the extremely successful businessman Robert A. Cole from Chicago. She worked in his funeral home system as an embalmer. Now, the internet has no records of her on the beyond this article, and he died in 2004. So for those where I can't find a record of anything else happening, I just simply give the tie to the women. It must have worked out. The next one is Muriel Ron. She's a famous Broadway actress who married in 1932. She married her husband, Dick Campbell, a producer and director of the Black Theater Circuits. They remained married until her death in 1961. Next is Dr. Jane Jones. She married attorney David Dallas Jones in 1947. They had two children who grew up to be physicians, and they remained married until his death in 1976. That's 29 years. This woman was actually a superstar in the field of oncology and chemotherapy research. She's all over the internet if you Google her. Her sister, Dr. Barbara Pierce, married attorney Samuel Riley Pierce. He was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development in the Reagan administration, and I can only find record of one wife, so I assume that he remained married to his wife for the duration as well. Now, both of these women were the children of an attorney themselves who was married his entire life. So what you see by these sisters, Jane Jones and Barbara Pierce, is that there is this strength that seems to be handed down through generations, these strong family bonds, these women who remain married, who give birth to successful children who remain married, and so on and so on. So I feel like by knowing what happened back then and knowing how it went into the future, you can sort of see the strength of good marriage, of long-lasting marriages, and how this seems to support successful children. Now, I love how this article ends. It's a rather funny quote to me. It says, husbands of career women often must swallow the gritty fact that their wives are smarter than they are. They must frequently live with explosive female temperaments, understand when they arrive home tired and irritated after a rough day on the job. For career wives, the problems of marriage are even tougher. She must remain cheerful in the face of dual demands of her job and home. From some deep reserve, she must be able to summon up the sweetness and affection. When both husband and wife can meet these tests, their marriage is often more stable and more lasting than conventional old-fashioned kind. Very nice. So that concludes another episode of Black in Time. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.